All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live on Twitch, YouTube, Tumblr. We're also here on sportswireradio.org, and we're also on not one but two other YouTube channels, the Pride Wrestling Federation and the Promo Wrestling Federation YouTube pages. And we're going to talk about a number of different things. It'll almost kind of be, I guess, free for all for the next 90 or so minutes. And to join me to talk about a number of different things, the host of the Be More Talkative podcast, he is TBK. We got Randy Dillon, a senior wrestling analyst, a man that dabbled in the wrestling world for a very brief period, also the host of the Hockey Fan Chat. We got the host of the Liftoff Jets and the New York MLB Talk, Chris Pizzaia, and the Grim Reaper of Sportswire Radio, Contest Man, a man that lived when the NBA first debuted, when the NFL first debuted, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and that is Rob Maraska. And gentlemen, happy Friday, and how's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good.
Doing well.
Good. That's good. That's good to hear. I hope everybody's enjoying their day and a number of different things. I mean, number of different things can bounce back on. NFL playoffs, WWE on Netflix. I think Netflix is obviously a big thing for people. Other stuff out there in the world depends on what the chat has to say. So I guess we'll go in a couple different ways. I mean, NFL playoffs. Maybe we'll go with that for a few minutes before I go into WWE and Netflix. So who's excited for the playoffs here coming up here this weekend? Who's watching? Who's not? Who's not? One guy's definitely excited. Chris is sort of excited, right? He's an Eagles fan.
Definitely, man.
Rob is, going to be thinking about Mets baseball, right?
No, Rob's going to be watching every game like he's been watching.
Baseball. You're thinking about baseball. It's okay. And,
Rob's going to be sitting there like, oh.
When are the Mets playing again?
Rob's going to be like, man, I remember when Joe Flacco, Peyton Manning, some of these other guys used to play at the game.
I did hear something. I was listening to the radio yesterday, and they did talk about that spring training pitchers and catchers report in 5 weeks, and the first games are in 6. So actually, for Rob and a lot of people, baseball ain't that far around the corner. But considering most of the country and maybe in rest of North America, it would be good to actually get into some football because the weather's either been extremely cold. We're dealing with wildfires, and in fact, wildfires have actually played a role in the Vikings and Rams, and they're actually playing a playoff game in Arizona. I mean, that's got to be a first I could think of, right, for a playoff game?
To be moved? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, to be moved, right? I mean, the Saints in 2006, right, with Katrina, they didn't move anything, right?
Yeah. I don't think they made the playoffs that year.
So then that would be
they did move the regular season game, though. I think they played at Tulane or something, right?
Yeah,
but to have
regular season.
But I'm curious for anybody here, how does that impact both these teams? That this game that was supposed to be played in SoFi Stadium is now being played in Glendale, Arizona. How does that?
Well, I look at it this way: Minnesota was playing a road game anyway, right? So no matter where they go, it's fine. Yeah. I think it affects the Rams a little bit more because they don't have that home field advantage now.
Chris, you stole my thunder. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think if you're being at SoFi Stadium, I think a few years ago, seeing the Rams play, listen, that home field advantage is huge. That many fans jam-packed. How many home fans are going to be there in Arizona?
Yeah, who's going to go to this game then? So is it going to be a Cardinals home game?
I did read that the team set up buses for the season ticket holders, but I mean, they set up, I think, 15 buses. How much is, how many people is that? 1,000 maybe? I don't know.
So what do we expect? I mean, obviously, understandably so, and it's just terrible. By the way, I saw John Gonzalez post this in the Sports Authority. It's just horrible what's going on in California. Yeah. I was reading it was Leighton Meester and Adam Brody lost their homes. I saw Adam Carolla to a video. I saw Miley Cyrus talk about it. I've seen people from all over. Just horrific what's happened, and my thoughts and prayers go out to all the people out there, and I really hope that things will get better there, but just horrible what's going on there. But I just wonder who has the advantage here in a game like this.
I don't know if either team does. I mean, I think Minnesota's the better team. So, and they were planning on doing a road trip anyway, right? So,
yeah,
I would think I kind of think they have the advantage a little bit because they're like, hey, we were going on this is what we were doing anyway. It's just a different location. And the the Rams don't have that home field advantage now. So now it's basically, this team versus the other team, neutral site, the best team is going to win. So I would think Minnesota's got the advantage, but, who knows?
I think the location may be inconvenient, but it's irrelevant at this point. It's playoff time. Playmakers make plays. This excuses are out the window now. If you got to travel, you got to travel. Like Chris said, they were going on the road anyway. The location's just a little different. But the Vikings have been stellar all freaking year. I don't think a little, time zone change is going to matter much.
How's the psyche, you guys think, for some of the Rams players? Because it's being there, wondering about their family and stuff. Because it's
a good point.
More just their psyche, just making sure their family's okay, friends, all that kind of stuff. Because I know some of them making millions and millions.
I think it could go. It's a good point. I think it could go two ways. The one way, they're extra motivated. They're not just playing for themselves, but they're playing for a state. They're playing for so many people that have just been, horrifically impacted by this, or their energy is going to be totally zapped. And I think TBK just mentioned it's a Vikings team that, other than the Lions game, played really good football the entire year. So, it's either going to go one or two ways, right?
Yeah. No, I 100%. I think you explained it perfectly. It could go either way with the Rams. They could go in a little bit with their mind still in LA, thinking about, their families and people that they know, that their lives has just been destroyed at this point. Or they could use it as, as a little bit, as an advantage for themselves. Right. And just kind of focus it out and just focus on the game. It might be better for them to be away from the area too. So it could go both ways, but I think they were already behind the eight ball a little bit anyway, with Minnesota being the better team coming in.
I was going to say, you got to remember, kind of like Randy said, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. It's a really unfortunate situation. Nobody's taking that away. But if you remember back in Torrey Smith's playing days, his brother dies in a horrific motorcycle accident. He comes in, he gets his head right. He has a stellar game. Those situations are extreme, but you got a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, it's a very unfortunate instance,
Sure.
and we obviously hope for the best here, and we'll bounce around. I do want to talk about, for the wrestling guys, what they thought about Netflix. I'll get into that. I'll say hello to some people. I want to say hello to some people in the chat right now. Zilla, Nathaniel Rage, who, by the way, had like 2.5 feet of snow in Appalachia, West Virginia, and more snow on the way, and my man Ed Pizzo is another part of the world, and who's, I think, going to be working on something big with us here on Sportswire. I think Ed has got a plan. We'll see if it comes to fruition sooner than we think. And hello to our friends there in Wisconsin and WCE. But what are some of the games? Steelers Ravens are playing. I know TBK is definitely watching that game, because those teams just played a few weeks ago, and the Steelers are at a free for all. We got also Chargers Texans. That's another intriguing matchup, because the Chargers, our old friend Anastasia Rossinya, and the Chargers played, pretty solid football most of the year. Jim Harbaugh trying to, I think, do a rather almost unheard of feat, which is win the national championship and then win a Super Bowl. How about that? That's storyline right there. I don't know what the odds are of that. I would be lying if I said I thought Jim Harbaugh was going to lead the Chargers to a Super Bowl. But just, to spend a few more minutes on football before I talk about Netflix. That's to me a fascinating storyline. The Chargers were a team that had pretty much almost the same team, right, last year, and they struggled. And then this year, it's a new coach, and they were a pretty good football team most of the year. They won 11 games, are in the playoffs, and what do you think here on the Saturday games?
I wouldn't say it's outside of the realm of possibility. Harbaugh comes from a football family. The Harbaughs are tenured coaches. And as much as I would love to see the Harbaugh round 2, like I said last time we were all on, this year feels different. The teams that are in the playoffs this year, you wouldn't have seen the Commanders or the Washington football team or whatever they're calling
Yeah,
themselves
Washington.
this
Who
year.
would have guessed that? Win 12
Um,
games and go into the playoffs. Chargers back in the
Yeah,
postseason. You know,
the
with
Chargers,
the
the
Broncos.
Lions,
You know, Broncos back in
the
the playoffs
Broncos.
in a decade since they won
Yeah.
the Super Bowl in a decade.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed that? Denver, we're a good legacy franchise and hadn't been in the postseason in a decade. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels so competitive this year to where, I mean, you have your favorites, obviously, and Chris, as always, the Eagles look great, but like, I don't know, I think this year it really feels like anyone's game.
I agree. I think it's wide open on both sides, on both conferences.
Sure.
Yeah, of course, Kansas City is going to be the favorite, right? I mean, let's face it. Once you say that they don't look that good, winning games, that's when they're going to beat you, right? Because they got that psychological advantage over every team right now. But this matchup, I don't really believe in the Texans that much this year. They did win 10 games. They lost 2 out of their last 3
faltered,
games.
Faltered.
And none of their wins, if you look at their wins this year, they beat nobody. Every game that they won, right? They beat the Colts, the Bears, the Jags. They did beat the Bills. I'll give them that. But they beat the Patriots, the Colts again. They beat the Cowboys, the Jags again, the Dolphins, and then they beat the Titans in the last game. So they had one good win all year, and they really didn't look that good, even in most of the season. So
and lost to the Jets, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. That's enough that you should make the playoffs. But I could see the Chargers winning this week. The following week, the Chargers are going to have a problem. They're either going to probably play Baltimore or they're going to play Buffalo, or they're going to play Kansas City. So pick your poison there, basically.
All right.
On the road, no less.
All right. I mean, so we most people think the Chargers would be able to maybe have a little bit of an edge, and the Steelers team, the last 4 games, obviously, I don't know what it meant against Cincinnati. Cincinnati wins, but that doesn't matter in the end. But the Steelers come into it. You never want to go into the playoffs with 4 losses in a row. The Steelers have done that. A lot of fingers are being pointed right now at the Steelers. These teams played a couple weeks ago. Ravens handled the Steelers rather comfortably. Is it the same outcome here coming up?
I will tell you, this is the most dangerous Pittsburgh has felt all year. Why? Because this, for them, is a total desperation game. And it's a revenge game. I mean, they have always had the edge over us, and to get beat how they got beat in our house, and to come back and replay the same scenario, but now with a lot more on the line. I mean, you have to think too, who are we preparing for? Are we preparing for Russ? Are we preparing for Fields? Are we preparing for the both of them in the same game? Like,
who do you want to see? Who do you want to see out there?
I'd rather see Russ,
100%.
But you know what? It's like I said, this is the playoffs. No excuses. Whoever it is, you got to be ready.
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm with you, but I think, listen, I think Baltimore wins this one pretty handily. Pittsburgh's lost 4 straight coming into the playoffs. They don't look good down the stretch, and that's when you don't want to look bad, right? You want to look good going into the playoffs, obviously. And Baltimore is a great example of that. Baltimore's coming into the playoffs, playing their best football, and Pittsburgh is the complete opposite. And I really think Pittsburgh's going to get beat, and I think they're going to get beat, by a couple of scores easy.
Yeah, I just think we have to do what we did last game. You have to eliminate TJ Watt, keep him out of the game, stop Najee Harris. Pickens is back. Now, the thing that worries me the most is they are absolutely going to be going after Brandon Stevens. Get him some help back there with Pickens. I don't care if you have to double team the man all game. Shut those key guys down, and I agree with you 100%.
All right. Well, I'll come back to a little bit of football in a minute. Now, do want to say hello to my guest tomorrow night, Mr. Texas Red of TPW, and I appreciate him. I'll say hello formally to everybody in the chat in a few minutes, but that's a little bit of an entree into football. But let's talk about WWE in a general sense, because obviously Netflix for Randy and TBK, maybe Chris checked it. It seemed like a moment that a lot of people really were excited about, and it draws. I think it was, you can't really, I guess, measure how many people actually watched it, but it was something like 2.6 million and 4.9 million homes or whatever it was. So, I mean, for those that watched it, or even just in general, was this the wave of the future? And did it meet your expectations content-wise, watching it? I mean, what did you guys think of WWE on Netflix?
I think it's definitely the way of the future. I think it has changed now so much where the days of watching it on cable, I think, are done. Eventually, I think once that Peacock deal done with, I think WWE's gonna move all its
Done like
content
the newspaper business, right?
pretty
Rob?
much all over to Netflix. With the show, it felt like a
Yep.
premium event. Some
Dead.
of the matches you look at, like the Raw, Roman Reigns versus Solo. You had the Rhea versus Liv finally ending their feud. Seth versus Punk, I think, is a big example where this was supposed to be at WrestleMania. They could definitely have done without Hulk Hogan. I think John Cena was good. The Rock, I think, was interesting because I don't know where we're going with The Rock. Is The Rock going to be at Mania or not? The way he was coming off sounded like he wasn't, but he said it on NXT, I'm 20 steps ahead. So don't put it behind. We could see him in a few weeks back. But overall, I thought it definitely did its job to get the attendance and attention of everyone saying, listen, if this is big and it's going to be big as it comes down.
Do you feel like that they're going to have to put a show on like this every time? Because, you know, they're not going to be able to put on almost WrestleMania quality like show, right, every time with Netflix. And I mean, what do you guys think of that? Because I have to imagine that they're not going to be able to do that every time. And that's a general question for everybody. What do you make of that?
No, they can't. Like they're running the same problem AEW where you keep doing these high spots, and it's something Bruce Hart taught me back in the day in training. You can't do you can't do the big thing every week, otherwise it takes away. I think this was kind of a one-off. We want to get people's attention. Now we know later on we're going to lose some viewers, lose some attention, but we got to go back to kind of how we were back on cable and when Raw was on USA. But I think a little bit higher end possibly than that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say that they just have to go back to their normal building their storylines, right? To build up towards the pay-per-views and all that stuff. And I think that's what they got to get back to. I'm sure it's not going to be the great matchups that you had, you know, this previous Monday night.
A lot of pressure. It's almost like I'm listening to Randy, and it's almost like if you go to a rock show, right, and you the band opens up, right, and they're playing the first couple songs, and you're into it, right, but they're not going to give you, you know, Detroit Rock City every time. They're not going to give you, you know, Shout It Out Loud every time. They're not going to give you those.
Unfortunately, they do, but
I'm
just saying with Kiss. They have the same set list, but I know what you're trying to say.
Basically, you're not going to give, you know, if you have 20 songs, you're not getting 20, you know, rock and roll anthems. You're going to have a few slow songs in between. You're going to have maybe a new song that people aren't going to understand or they're not going to know as well. And then maybe you close it out with a big bang.
You know what's something good, I think, for WWE? I mean, I know this Monday night, there is a football game, right? There is a playoff game.
Yes, yeah.
After this, I think about it Monday night for a long time.
The national championship is the following week, I believe.
Oh, on Monday night?
Yeah, the 20th.
All right, so at least for the first 2 weeks, and then after that, they got Monday night to themselves for a long time.
7.5 months.
That's their time to build up a lot of momentum, and I think that'll help.
But are they competing with? But you know what? But this is a general question. Are they competing with that anymore? Because you know, WWE on USA. All right, I get you. You know, and they're talking. You know, the NFL, college football. You want to talk about fine, but are they competing with that now, or are they in a different lane for any of you guys?
I think it's going to be wait to see when football starts up again to see how the viewership works. Because I think it might be easy enough. Okay, people can watch two things at once now. You can watch football and Netflix and have Netflix on a different device or your phone at the same time.
Now, for the guys that have Netflix, do you actually get to download this episode or keep it?
Yes, you actually do.
Yeah, you do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So but that doesn't count as a rating in a measurement, right? Do they count that? That's a totally different dynamic then. So if I'm on Netflix, whereas I was on USA before, right? USA, I wouldn't be able to. Maybe if I had Peacock, right? I suppose. But now with Netflix, I don't have to watch it at Monday night, right? I could watch it 3 hours later, and
whenever. Yeah.
doesn't count as a
Watch
measured
whenever.
rating.
I
Yeah,
think I think that's the plan for them. I think, listen, like I was working out early, went to the gym, I paused it, I came back, it took me back to the same spot where I started on SmackDown because
Oh,
everything
wow.
here in Canada. So I think it's definitely going to change where now you can watch it. You can kind of watch it anywhere you go. I know some channels you could stream on your phone, but now it's like you're on transit somewhere, and it's like you
Is
want to watch wrestling.
SmackDown
You
in
can go home.
Canada on USA or it's on a different network?
It's on Netflix. Everything in WWE in Canada is on Netflix.
Wow. Oh, so there's no like here in America we have USA
And
and
CW for NXT, but yeah.
NXT is CW or Netflix where you are.
Yeah, everything's on Netflix. We got.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Actually, Ed, my buddy Ed Pizzo, of course, got to give Ed a big plug with Dooley. By the way, Dooley is going to change the game here. Let me give him a plug because Ed is working on something that we've had Ed on before, but I really believe in what he's doing this time. Let me give him a little plug because he's here, and I really think it's going to change the game and what he's doing. It's Dooley.com. It's Dooley.io here. You got that, but there's a number of different things here. If you want to check it out, I would really recommend you do it because they're going to see some things here, I think, on Sportswire that it's going to change the game. We had a big turnout before when some guy named Rhino was here, and I think there'll be certain shows that you'll get that same response, or even if a show like tonight where you're just talking about maybe you want to vote on something. I don't want to give too many details away, but check out the website. I think something's coming that will maybe change Sportswire, reimagine it. But that's all I'm going to say is a plug. But Dooley, we are here to duel. But we'll come back to that in a few minutes. But Ed did have a good line here before I get to TBK. Actually, ratings are now a daily, weekly metric when it comes to Netflix. Interesting.
Okay.
So it's different than a rating. You want to say something, TBK, on Netflix? What did you think? What did you like? What did you not like? What do you got?
Yeah, I agree with Randy. They absolutely delivered on what they said it was going to be. They said it was going to be the biggest Raw ever. That's absolutely what it was. It had that, premium live event feel, and they made their mark with it. Now, the thing is with them is going forward, the cap has pretty much been ripped off. They can go for as long as they want to go, which Triple H has already said. If the moment calls for it, the show could extend by 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 minutes, whatever they feel is necessary. So, really, them being on a streaming platform like this, sky's the limit. Don't overdo it. You can't kill people with a good thing every week. But, now that you have that possibility, of course, the world's your oyster or whatever, thing you want to, whatever. But you have the opportunity. So, go for it. I absolutely agree with Randy. The thing with The Rock was a little weird. It looks like we were throwing away storylines that we've been building up for quite a while now, but who knows? It's The Rock. Got to be patient. We have no idea what's going to happen for WrestleMania. But right now, I'm enjoying the ride. The thing that kind of did aggravate me a little bit, was the choice to completely scrap, Penta debuting on Netflix. I think it would have been a great way to put him in front of a lot of people on a huge monumental night and to stick him with Chad Gable. Now I say stick him. Chad Gable was a great talent. I take nothing away from that man at all. But I think, giving him the opportunity to not only, tag team with Ray and like I said, on such a big, important night, I was a little disappointed with that, but hey, still very much looking forward to his debut. And yeah, I'm along for the ride as well as everybody else. So we'll see what happens.
All right, let me get to a bunch of comments here. Let me get to everybody here. Joey Bostrom's in the house, and he watched Ohio State and Texas. Who won, by the way? Who won Ohio State and Texas?
Ohio State.
And was it close? How was the game? Was it anybody?
They won 28-14, I think.
28-14. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. We'll come back to a couple of things here. Joe Dell, of course, the legendary Joe Dell. Speaking of Kiss, get the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame All-Stars album featuring Bruce Kulick, who played for Kiss during the Unmasked era, and also Paul Stanley on the DVD. Oh yeah, and yours truly. Are you on the CD or the DVD? What are you on exactly, Joe? Are you on a song with Bruce Kulick and Paul Stanley, or are you just on the album? That'd be good to know.
I'm gonna have to find
Rob,
that.
do you have the
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Do you have the
He's not-
cassette player for this, or
What, Rob? You want to answer that for us?
Eight
You wanna
track,
answer?
8-track.
8-track. Right.
No, he's on a song. I don't.
Did he play?
I don't-
You,
he's
now, do
not
you
on a
play
song
with?
with Paul Stanley.
Oh, really?
wow.
He played a song with Paul Stanley.
No, he's not on. He's
Oh.
not on with Paul Stanley. Not on.
I was
that
gonna
song, but
say.
he's on. Yeah, he's on. He could tell you. I mean, I've
Yeah,
heard it.
I'll hear about that in the chat. I'd love to hear about that. Let me
Yeah.
run through some comments. I want to say hello to my guest here coming up in 2 weeks, my very good buddy Thomas McEntee. Thomas McEntee is in the house, and Joe Dell says go Irish, not for certain lucrative monetary reasons, but he does say go Irish. It's an inside joke there. Who else we got here? Thank you, Zilla, for tuning in. I appreciate you very much. Yes, Sportswire Radio. Yes, with a Z, but thank you for that. I appreciate you, Austin. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I saw you in the chat with Rhino. Hi to everybody. My man Nathaniel Rage, who's always the Rage. I think I'm seeing Nathaniel tomorrow night. Yes, hello. There's Ed. Yes, Ed, good old Ed, my man Ed, my main man. Yep, she obeys them. Okay, she obeys the devil. Okay, good enough. Want to say hello to Liz. How you doing, everybody out there? Yes, and I do see it here. It's going to be Ohio State and Notre Dame. Okay, that'll be interesting. Yep, hello there. We're rooting for that. Liz is rooting for the Ravens and the Lions. You know, I think a lot of people in America are going to be rooting for the Lions, obviously. I think everybody in America, maybe around the world, wants to see the Lions. I mean,
isn't this the first, or like you guys, like I've heard this like the second time the Lions made the playoffs, like 20-some years or something, or it has been a while where
and they've never made a Super Bowl.
Never.
Yep.
And think about it, the Lions have been around since 1937.
Wow.
And this is the first year they won more than 13 games. You look at their last 2 years. I mean, since the merger, what did they win? One playoff game before last year? Was it like one? They had one playoff win. I mean, so it's maybe two. I mean,
maybe
maybe one in the early '80s and one in '91, and that's it. I mean, they go to the playoffs. They had some.
They might have won with Barry Sanders, maybe that era. You know, like that.
They had one playoff win in '91, and then they had one playoff win. We'll look it up here, but they had one win in '91. You know, they got to the playoffs. You know, they had some okay years in the 90s, but you know, like really had a bad record. They were winless one year. I mean, you know, it's a franchise that really struggled. I mean, Caldwell, they had a couple of okay years, you know, made the playoffs with Stafford, but this is a franchise that's really had very little success historically. It's a franchise that's really had no real long lucrative success. That's unfortunately where this franchise is. Yeah, they had 2 playoff wins since the merger. 2 playoff wins. That's before last year. So you're talking about 2 wins. I mean, you know, 2 wins. That's
they've won 4 championships all in their history, and their last one was 1957.
Now, Rob, were you there? Were you at the game? Was that the Lions and Giants? Were you there? No, seriously, wasn't that the Lions? Was that the Lions and Giants where the game was blacked out or something like that, or the were you there, Rob? At the Polo Grounds? The Polo Grounds, yeah. Liz sees the Chargers. That's Cleveland. Okay, all right, there you go. I see the Chargers
out there.
Oh, Rob. Well, Rob definitely wouldn't be in Cleveland. I definitely don't see that. I see the Chargers getting past the Texans. Yeah, I think probably I'd say like 2/3 of America is probably going to go that way, North America. Thank you, Rocky. I look forward to seeing Rocky tomorrow night. I can have a fun show at Rocky. Rocky's back in the house. Glad that Craven is recovering. Yes, he had a stroke. Want to give thoughts and no stroke. He had something else, which it was that was something. He did have a stroke. No, he collapsed. That's it.
Yeah, the seizure. I think it was
seizure. There you go. Thank you for correcting me. Ravens are going to take Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh. You know, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a good game, but to go into it, you know, you never want to go into anything with 4 straight losses into the playoffs. I mean, you backed into the playoffs. Now, granted, you know, you didn't lose to any poor teams, but you still lost 4 straight games.
So if the Chargers win and Baltimore wins,
okay,
Baltimore travels to Buffalo, right? And the Chargers travel to KC, right?
Oh, so you guys don't think Denver's got a shot?
No.
No. Listen,
No.
I think they'll play them good, but I think
Sean
Buffalo
Payton
beat
is
them.
the Super Bowl winning coach. Denver was, a good football
Yeah,
team.
no.
Bo Nix played well. I mean, not giving him any chance.
I don't think it's gonna be a blowout by any stretch, but I think Buffalo wins.
Okay, I had to throw it
Yeah, I
out there. I
think
mean,
so.
all right. Because remember, last year Green Bay won. A lot of people didn't think Green Bay was going to beat Dallas. They won.
It
I
would
agree.
be shocking. Upset of the year, 100%.
In
But
Buffalo too, no less. Yeah.
oh my god,
Yeah.
Phew.
Oh yeah.
All right. I mean, I got to throw it out. I got to at least, give Denver their
I wonder if
chance.
they'll get snow, right? Because aren't we supposed to? We're getting snow Saturday,
Yeah.
right? A little bit here.
I think we're getting, if you're in downstate here and you're in Long Island, Rob and myself are in Staten Island, we're getting like an inch of snow, but
Yeah,
probably up
nothing
there
much.
will be like 10 inches of snow.
Probably, yeah.
Like the
Yeah, they
whole,
said
like,
Buffalo.
do
They
know,
said
like,
that it's probably going to snow there.
do you know, like, almost all of, like, this country right now is dealing with this Arctic blast? I hear Texas got snow, right? My guest yesterday, Nikki Chooch, North Carolina, he's like, I moved away from New York. We got snow all over the country, except where these wildfires are dealing with the Arctic blast. Today was finally, like, almost it was like summer today. It was 40 degrees in New York. I'm sure
Yeah,
Randy's dealing with.
beautiful.
What's it by you, Randy? Like
Me,
20
it's like we're like 0 to 2 degrees right now. So
Oh.
but it's like a spring day for us. It feels like a spring
That's
day.
kind of like how it was in New York. It was 40. I was
Yeah.
walking around I was in Bensonhurst today. I was walking around almost my jacket was open. I didn't put my gloves on. It was great. It was people opened the door. They were good. They're happy to see me. It was great. What's it by you in Maryland? What was the weather by you today in the weather report on Sportswire?
I think it was like 26 today. It was pretty cold.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're getting a warm front Sunday and Monday. It's going to be 45 on Monday. I might be bringing out the shorts again. I can't wait.
Well, that's
It's
because, hey, Tom, the wind was brutal yet the past couple of days.
You don't have to tell me. I was out in it Tuesday. I was out in it twice. I was out in it, and the wind was like, oh my God. Yesterday was the worst. I have to say it was the worst. It felt like going with the wind. I said it yesterday on Sportswire. It felt like I was in Kansas going with the wind. It was like, oh my God. It was just, I hope to never go through that again. But it's supposed to get warm for a couple of days. I can't wait. Rocky should be here. I think Rocky's here 8 Central or 8 Eastern, but Rocky will be here. We'll look forward to that. Randy's on Instagram. Give him a follow. TBK is on Instagram. Give him a follow. I'm going to put Rob's X up in a few minutes, but that's TBK. Also, I'm so happy that Tiffany Stratton finally got her moment. You guys were happy about that? We'll go to wrestling for a minute or two.
Yeah, I think it was good, but I feel like I didn't like the fact Bailey kind of jumped Nia. I feel like they need to finish up because they've been building this kind of drift between her and Nia for some time. Finish it up, especially the fact is they have no matches kind of announced for the Saturday night main event, which is supposed to be like in 2 weeks.
Right before the week before the Rumble, right?
Rumble, yeah. No matches still announced. And I feel like, listen, Nia and Tiffany have some good chemistry here. Let these two finish up and then either get Bailey or Bianca kind of challenge her or possibly Charlotte Flair down the road.
Go sticking on wrestling for a minute. I know there's a lot of comments here tonight. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us for a little while. But somebody did bring up Hulk Hogan. I mean, what did you guys think about that? Hogan getting booed. I mean, everyone seems to be talking about that. What did you guys make of that? I mean, I talked about this. I did a stream Monday, and I don't have Netflix, so I didn't watch it. I saw it on social media through like different little videos. But what did you guys make of that? Was that because people just don't want to see him anymore? What do you guys make of Hogan getting the boo birds there?
So I read something Mark Henry said. He said Hulk Hogan, he's been doing this to himself. The comments, forget like him supporting Trump. I think all his comments, all his mistakes with his videos, all that. And Mark Henry said he's never kind of taken accountability. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry for what I did." He's just like, "Yeah, whatever, brother," all that kind of stuff. And I think fans are just at this point sick of him, just with all these comments and all his behavior. And I think I understand why they did. Like Hulk Hogan, without him and Vince, you would not be here to this moment. Kind of butterfly effect. Mm-hmm. But I think now, I think people it's no longer just. Before you got excited to see Hulk Hogan maybe 5 years ago. Now it's like you see Hulk Hogan the nostalgia is no longer there. It's like,
well, I mean, what do you think that this generation now, like, all right, if you're a wrestling fan, you're in your 20s, right? Hogan, you don't really know him, really like if you really lived in any of Hogan's run, what do you have to be as at a minimum of like 32, 31.
31.
So really,
I watched Hogan. I started watching wrestling big time in 2005, and that when Hogan kind of
that
had his
little
last
run he had,
hurrah
yeah, that
with
little
Shawn
like.
Michaels. So that's how
All right,
I know
you
him.
would
But
have
after
been
that, you haven't
When
seen
did he
him.
fight? Well, when did he fight The Rock at WrestleMania?
2002, WrestleMania
2002.
18. WrestleMania 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big match.
But
that
think
was
about,
definitely a huge match.
like a lot of the wrestling fans, right? If you're in your 20s, like a lot of people that come on Sportswire, they don't have any recollection of living in that era. So really, like Hogan, yeah, I mean, as a historical figure, it means something. But to a lot of these younger fans,
Yeah,
I mean, is that a part of it that people they don't really?
I think that's a part of it, and I think like Randy said, the comments, unfortunately, yeah, the political part. Sure, I'm sure that's thrown into it too.
Oh, I definitely think that's a
But,
part of it because I
yeah,
think
but listen,
one of the big no-nos, really in sports or anything, if you're going to be a public figure, is when
Yeah.
you tip, and that's left or right. You tip your feet into the water, you better
Right.
be prepared for a backlash because it's like the famous line Michael Jordan had years ago. Well, Republicans buy sneakers too. People wanted him to ask, what his viewpoints were, and I think that if you are a figure, and Hulk Hogan, whether you like him or not, is a major figure, and when you come out and maybe you have opinions or you come out and support people that some people don't like, I think sports is a very sensitive thing, because people. I always say this, and this has come from a guy that's worked in politics a lot. But if you notice, I always give everybody an opportunity because also my politics are a little different than Hogan's as an example. But I'll put it like this. People get away from the world stuff. Like we talked about at the beginning of the show. We talked about the wildfires, what a terrible thing, right? People talk about, all the different things that are still going on in this world. People come to sports and they come to wrestling to get away from that stuff. So whether you like it or not, I think that maybe has, like somebody said, a butterfly effect. I don't know.
Could I tell a couple of quick Hulk
You
Hogan,
tell us the Mets story. I'm only goofing. Go ahead. What do you got?
No, could I?
Yeah.
Okay. I
All
think
right,
I told
Rob.
you this before.
Sure.
Hulk Hogan was my friend Gary was married to his niece. So in the 80s, he used to give us tickets to WrestleMania and to wrestling matches at the Meadowlands, and we used to get to go backstage. So I met him a bunch of times, and he was always nice to me. But that's because he was my friend's wife's Uncle Terry. That's how we knew him, and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But also,
he was a big guy, Rob. You weren't going to say anything like, "Oh, I'm not a fan." He's like 6'8" too, Rob. No. He was a good guy to us. No, I believe you. I believe you.
Then, fast forward in 2006, I was on a cruise in Florida, and they just happened. And I didn't know this when I booked the cruise. They were filming his reality show that week on the cruise. So his wife at the time, his ex-wife, she
Linda,
was really not the nicest. Was not the nicest person to people. But he was all right on the ship. And if you see that episode, I'm like in the background about 100 times with different Met shirts on.
You know what? I knew it was going to be a Mets. I just knew something.
You had to bring the Mets.
I knew it. It was like it
snuck it in there.
But that's my Hulk Hogan story. So I used to, used to get tickets from him.
Well, his wife
probably even brought you out as a manager or something.
Rob, you should have been a great mouthpiece for him, but you would, But
and you know what, guys, I could talk from you guys' point of view, Randy, TBK, right? Because I grew up a wrestling fan, right?
Yeah.
And I grew up during the Hogan era.
I see you in the Sports and Gardens group. Sometimes I see you post old stuff in wrestling.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, I was a huge wrestling fan up until about 20 years ago. But
makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Huge fan. Yeah. And Hogan was the biggest star, and he's the guy that turned it into from a Saturday morning show into what it is today. Time. Right? Yeah. Without him, it would be nothing. But if you watched wrestling for the last 20 years, he's just some old guy, that you or whatever.
I think also
I get what you're saying. So now the littlest thing he's going to say that's going to piss people off, guess what? He's going to get all the heat. What they should do is use it in a storyline. make him like this evil guy or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want
That's a good
Why
idea.
not anymore, Chris? That's the thing. I think it's the same with Ric Flair. Like, apparently he might be at the Rumble, which hopefully not, because I think he'll pass out the time he makes it to the ring. But I just think we're tired of seeing these old guys on TV because we want to see the newer generation.
And he could barely move, Hogan, right?
Yeah.
Just standing there, it looked like he could barely move.
Yeah, I think you know what? I think that's an interesting point. These guys in this generation. Listen. Put it this way: would you want to see Nolan Ryan go out there? I mean, in pitch of baseball, would you want to see?
No.
Oh, I mean,
And think about it. In 20 years, Stone Cold's you're going to hear the glass break, and people are going to be like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like that. So it's just some old.
Well,
guy.
it's like, all right, for Randy's a hockey guy. Do we want to see Mark Messier go out there again?
No.
We want to see Wayne Gretzky go out there again. I mean, so it's tough. Change is inevitable.
So here's the thing as far as Hogan is concerned in my point of view. So I mean, I think at this point that the accolades and the accomplishments are not enough to erase the current sins of the father, so to speak. He's had too much of a muddy past. Now the crazy thing is if you want to go down the political route, yes, he publicly endorsed Trump, but so did Taker, and Taker was on the same night in the same arena with the same crowd.
Yeah, but I think Undertaker though is new. A lot of these he's been around. There's a different. He's got a lot of rope. No one's gonna go against Taker. I understand that 100%, and that's my goat. That is my personal goat. No one's gonna go against Taker. But the difference is like I said, like the past comments, the racism, the thing with his daughter, all that stuff. It's just too much now. That I think even Vice, if you saw the Vice documentary where they were talking about WCW, the death of it, the whole thing with the WCW world title with Booker T and Jeff Jarrett. I mean, there was a lot of,
Hogan did not look good during that.
He has too much baggage at this point.
No,
the Vice documentary wasn't good. I think the people saw that. That's a recent thing. And I'm with Ed. Change is inevitable. I think he's talking about a lot of things there. Chris is on Instagram. Give him a follow. Joe Dell. Yep. How you doing there? Who else we got from comments? Boom, boom, boom. Thank you for Dooley. Joe's on a CD track. Tim Ripper Owens. I did like, I did like the one Judas Priest album he did, Jugulator. I didn't like the one he did after that, but I did like Jugulator, which was actually not a bad one. My buddy Barry Gutman's in the house. Barry, how are you doing, my friend Barry? Barry is a hardcore gamer, and Barry is in the chat. Barry is one of my guys way back in the time machine. Let me give Barry a big plug on YouTube because I know Barry still will be doing stuff there. He is the hardcore gamer, and he is going to be eventually back live on YouTube and got 126 subs. Remember when Barry had like 7 subs, but now he's at 126. So there is Barry. Check him out. He's live. Well, he will be live again. So give him a follow. Thank you, Barry, for your support over the years. And there we go. Now I can't add it. You know what? Internet's a funny world. There we go. Thank you very much. Oops, wrong thing. I can't click on it. I still can't click on Barry's YouTube plug. There we go. Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, who else we got here in the chat? Hi to Barry. Maybe Zilla will come on the show tomorrow. We will see. So Tom was in Brooklyn. Yeah, because I'm in Brooklyn and you're in the other end of Brooklyn and I'm doing something else. You're in the boondocks. You're in the boonies. But I didn't have your number, actually.
Oh, you can't tell too many people you're in Brooklyn, too, Tom.
Well, I could tell people a lot of things. But Barry, I was actually not near Barry. And unfortunately, I had to come back and do Sportswire, which is, a job, basically. Almost in a sense. Speaking of Kansas, Rob Maraska actually got to see the Wizard of Oz on opening day. Did you see the Wizard of Oz?
Wait, was Rob in the Wizard? Like, did he go with Dorothy who saw the Wicked Witch?
It only costs 25 cents.
Well, does 25 cents even get you a quarter drink these days? For us, I remember going to get a quarter drink.
The old days. I love the quarter
Sun. Was it the Sun do quarter drinks? I used to get the fruit punch. I was like, always
the containers, right? Those little plastic containers, right?
I used to get it. There was this place. Yep, they were great. They were great. Hogan to us is like Gorgeous George to Rob Maraska. That's a funny one. Speaking of people, Anthony Finkel is in the house. I was talking to Anthony.
Hey,
Good to see my
There you
man,
go.
Mr. DPH. Speaking of people in
The
Brooklyn
OG
who are
himself.
busy. He's more busier than me, and I thought I'd be busy. And we were talking about a couple different things. Good to see my man. Hope the married life is treating you well, and I'll definitely see you one day again. My man Ron Franklin's in the house. You could tell he's a Packers fan. I was gonna say maybe he was a Buccaneers fan, but he's actually a Packers fan instead. But we'll talk about that. Yep. Follow Barry if Barry's still in the chat. No, I don't know if Barry's in the chat. Barry will be back. All right, so that was good. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Listen, Hogan, and we'll come back to that. But talk about some of the other games here real quick. I mean, Broncos, Bills. Nobody thinks of an upset, but what do you think? You guys think of Packs and Bucks? For our buddy Ron Franklin, and he kind of a coin. Maybe is that the coin toss game of the week, or am I missing something here?
Well, Green Bay's playing Philly.
I'm sorry. Tampa's playing Washington. I'm sorry. Tampa's playing Washington. So Tampa and Washington. Then what do you? Is that the coin toss of the game of the?
I think so. That should be a good. That should be a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a toss-up game. I agree with you definitely, but it's going to be a good game.
Is there any? So the upset for you, if you were going to go for a surefire upset, it's got to be the Chargers, right? Chargers over, in Houston. That's a win. What about Green
What's
Bay?
the line in that game?
I'll tell you. I'll give you the lines. I'll give you the lines here. Give me 1 second. I'll put it up here right now for the chat. So I'll go with this. I'm going to put it up here on the chat. We'll come back to wrestling in a minute. I can go like this and go like that. There we go. So if you can see it here, I can't see it. There now I can see it. That's social media's and the internet's a world. All right, so I know you guys can't see it too well, but I can tell you. So I got 2.5 points. Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. Over unders 41.5. You guys like then the Chargers in that, right? 2.5, 41.5 is the over under. You like the over or the under in that? What about the over under?
I could see I guess go over in that one, right? Maybe a 24-17 game or something.
24-20. Yeah. All right. Pitts and Baltimore's 9.5-point favorites. 43.5 is the over under.
Listen, I think Baltimore's going to win big. I really do.
2 touchdowns.
Chris, I'm with you. I want to be with you. I'm going to be with you.
Hootie in the Bros. You guys want to meet? I mean, I can't for legal reasons, put it up, but I only want to be with you. I mean, that's the big Hootie. But Green Bay and Philly's 5.5-point favorites. 45.5 is the over under.
You know what? The one thing Philly's got going. Well, they both got injuries, right? Green Bay, they lost their wide receiver last
Jordan
week,
Love
right?
Is injured still, right?
Yeah, Watson, and also Jordan Love is banged up.
Yeah.
Like shoulder, the elbow, something is up with him. And Philly, you got Jalen Hurts finally coming back after missing a couple of weeks. So he's going to be a little rusty, but I think Philly wins that game, and they should cover. I could see them winning by a touchdown.
I feel like that game is going to be an absolute fight. It's going to be sloppy, but I don't see it being a blowout by any means. Two teams that are banged up right now, with everything on the line. Like I said, I mean, it's these games here, man. All of them have that big game feel to them. So
hey, it's the playoffs, right?
It's one and done. It's not the NHL.
One and done. Yeah, that's right.
Go 7.
Randy knows, right?
Yeah.
That 1 versus 8 you think is a blowout, and it turns out to be, a great series. So,
yeah.
All right, let me go to a couple other games for the rest. Denver and Buffalo. Interesting. Denver's less of a underdog than Pittsburgh is. 8.5. Buffalo's the favorite. 47.5 is the over under.
Like that game, I would take Denver with the 8.5, but I think Buffalo's going to win.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I got Buffalo all day.
All right. Well, let me get to some more comments here. We'll get to Joey in a minute, but let me go to Washington and Tampa. 50.5 is the over under, and Tampa's 3-point favorite there. What do you guys think?
That's going to be some game. I think that's going to be one of the better games of the weekend.
The highest scoring matchup, right? Those two teams.
Yeah, it should. Both defenses aren't great, right? So I would give the advantage to Tampa just because they're home. In Washington, you know what? Jaden Daniels is a rookie. Can he go on the road and win a game on the road? I don't know in the playoffs. So I'll go Tampa.
I've said it all year. It's like I said, like Jaden, he's so special, and I don't know. I still, if I'm a fan of any team that has him playing for me, I still don't trust Baker. I would love to see the rookie have just an amazing ride. I don't see him going too far, but this one, I think they can pull this one out.
Well, I mean, we'll see. It's definitely a coin toss matchup. And the last one before I get to a few comments, Vikings and Rams. Rams are actually 2.5-point underdogs in a neutral site game, and it's 47.5 is the over-under.
Like I said before, I think Minnesota wins that game. I think the Rams got too much going on. Now they got to travel, and there's just too much going on mentally. I know it could go both ways. It could give them a little bit extra, but I think it's going to be the opposite. I think Minnesota is just a better team anyway, and I think Minnesota wins that game.
I think you're right. But what do you think about the crowd? How do you guys think the crowd's going to be there? Like, who's going to be there?
It's just good. I think it's going to be like a Super Bowl crowd unless you're home. People are just happy to be there.
Maybe you just get Arizona fans to show up because they get to see a game.
Right, that too. Like a game, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's actually a mystery. I mean, you know what? If you go into the game, maybe you'll root for the Rams just because of what's going on. So maybe they'll have.
And you never know. Say they didn't move it. You don't know what the crowd would be like because of these fires in LA anyway.
Right.
You don't know who would show up.
How close
you don't know.
is it? So. How close is LA to where they're playing? Because they're taking buses there.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you could drive. I drove from Vegas to San Diego.
I thought you were going to say you drove from Staten Island to Vegas. I'm like, wow, Rob.
No,
there you go. Now that's a road trip.
So I mean, it's a ride, but it's not that bad.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting point. Let me get to Joey, and we'll come back. We'll bounce into wrestling and talk about a couple other things. So Joey's got the Chargers. He's got the Ravens, the Bills, the Eagles, Washington, and Minnesota. So what that tells me here, road teams would be 3-3 here. It tells you that the home teams never really have that much of an advantage in the playoffs. It's just like in hockey. We talk hockey all the time, right? We know that most of the time in the NHL playoffs, the home team has not as much of an advantage as we think.
So going back to Chris and Rob's comment. So it's about 300 from SoCal to where the Cardinals played in Glendale. It's about 380 miles. So it's a bit of a distance.
Like 3 hours, 4 hours.
All right.
About 5-6 hour drive.
I was going to think, and I'm not a driver, but I'm going to think 5 hours.
The team is flying in.
Yeah.
The fans.
This isn't like
the
team's not taking a bus.
Yeah, these guys, these millionaire owners, they're going to be on a first ticket flight to us somewhere. Let me say hello before I go back to Joe. Mr. Yoshi Matsuda. Mr. Matsuda, of course, my very good friend from Wrestling Zero, and want to give him a nice little shout out. And if you're out there on Instagram, do give him a follow. I'll put his Instagram before I get to Joe Dell, because Joe had a prediction. Joe's a little ahead of the game in predictions, but Mr. Matsuda, I appreciate Mr. Matsuda for all he does for us here on Sportswire Radio, the OGS. He even gave me a song. I have a song, actually. He gave me a song. He's going to release it for me, but he put it on Instagram, and it was on my Instagram story, but the OGS, and of course, I'm the commissioner in Wrestling Zero. We love our friends in Wrestling Zero, so give Mr. Matsuda a follow. I appreciate him very much, so give him a nice little follow, and let me go back to Joe. He's got Chiefs Bills in the AFC final. Chiefs take it. They're the new Pats. Boy, you're giving us no hope there, right, Joe Dell?
Boo. I don't think anybody wants to see the Chiefs, even though, listen, for them to go to the Super Bowl, to win 3 straight, that'll be the first time ever in the Super Bowl era to win 3 straight Super Bowls.
I think that's so fascinating that in this in the entire merger, right? I mean, I know the Bills got to 4 straight Super Bowls. They got to 4. I mean, I know that the Cowboys won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. I got that, but nobody's won 3 straight Super Bowls. I just think that's so fascinating.
Does anybody know the last team to win 3 straight championships?
With the Packers?
Yes.
60s?
When was it?
I would say what
Rob knows, but
Rob knows.
I don't want Rob to answer.
Rob knew who won the first Super Bowl.
Were you there at the Ice Bowl? The first
Yes,
Super
he
Bowl?
was.
Hey, that
He was everywhere.
One of the best games of all time.
He's like, "Where's Waldo?" The Packers won. The Packers won the last championship before the Super Bowl.
65, 66, 67, right?
And then he won the first 2 Super Bowls. So they're the
Yeah.
last.
San
And they were the
Fran
last
was
team.
the 49ers in 94 and between 94 and 2000. They won 3 in a row.
No,
The 49ers didn't win 3 Super Bowls in a row.
No,
And Green Bay
no
was
team
the-
has won 3 straight. No team
Yeah.
has won.
The 49ers won back-to-back, right? One in
Yeah.
the 80s. They won back-to-back.
yeah,
Dallas won 3 in 4 years. New
3 and
England
4.
won
They
3
could
in
have won
4
easily
years.
4 or 5. I mean,
I
that's how
think
good that
Dallas
team
was the one. New England won 3 in 4 years.
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
Yeah, so no
New
team has
England
won 3 in
no.
a row according to
New
the
England won
internet.
3 in
it's
4
crazy.
years.
When was the last hockey
Listen.
team to win 3 in a row, Randy?
The
3 in a row?
Islanders. The Islanders won 4 cups in a row.
I think
They
the
were the last one,
Islanders.
right?
Yeah, the
We
Islanders.
won 4 in a row. We up to 5 cup finals in a row. Nobody's done it since then.
I
Nobody.
I don't think we'll ever see that ever
Edmonton
again.
had
Pittsburgh.
2 in a row.
Pittsburgh won back-to-back cups.
91,
Tampa Bay
90, 2016, 17, and 91, 92.
and Tampa Bay won back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Yeah, they won back-to-back.
Detroit won back-to-back Stanley
Yep.
Cups.
95, 96, 97, 98. Yeah, no one, since the Islanders, no one has won 3 straight.
And by the way, request for Mr. Matsuda. He wants to know your thoughts on Shohei Ohtani. Ew.
Oh, he's an unbelievable player. He's probably the best player in baseball right now.
Maybe in
And-
sports. How about in sports, right?
Oh, in sport, who else could play both ways as good as he can? Maybe we'll see that in football next year with Travis Hunter coming out of Colorado, right?
Yeah.
But nobody could do what Ohtani does. He's an alien. Like, he's a one of a kind. He's all those words are. It's crazy, but we'll probably never see a guy like him ever again. You know, you can't even compare him to Babe Ruth because Babe Ruth never did what Ohtani did, and what Ohtani's doing is just unreal.
I mean, there've been pitchers as good hitters. I mean, the Mets always goes to the Mets, but the Mets had a guy, Mike Hampton, who was actually a really good hitter.
Yeah.
He was a
but
pitcher.
nothing like Ohtani. I mean,
No,
Ohtani
I'm not.
is-
I mean, there was
of course
Rick.
not.
I mean, there was Rick
He's just
Ankiel.
unreal. Like, he's
Rick,
just unreal.
Rick Ankiel technically changed positions. I mean, that if you want to throw him in there, he turned his career around. I mean,
Yeah, there were pitchers that were good hitters, but they're not Ohtani. Seaver was a good hitter. Dwight Gooden was a good hitter, but they're no Ohtani. I mean, come on.
Ohtani's an MVP as a hitter and a Cy Young as a pitcher. You know, that's how good this guy is. He's just it's unfair how good he is. You know, it seriously is.
Well, and he's just a different breed. Yeah, pretty much. You just finished the sentence. He's a different breed.
Give us a wrestler that you could compare him to. You guys are all wrestling fans. Give us a wrestler.
I mean, in terms of doing like acting or just in the ring, is there
everything? Shawn Michaels, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels. I think Shawn Michaels would be a good one.
I would say just as of recently, probably Cena.
Yeah, Cena definitely. I'd say maybe not as earlier, but now like you.
I gotta bring it up. I gotta say Flair, not today, but like
in his prime. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Flair was doing like 60-minute matches like 4 or 5 times a week. I mean, finally, like even up into like the late 80s, he was like, I was listening to it. It was Stevie Richards of all people. I was listening to him, and he was talking about Flair would do like 4 or 5 60-minute matches like in a week, and he would like. I mean, I think Flair would have to fit Ohtani. I mean, not Flair today.
Maybe Kurt Angle. I know he never got that acting, but if he got the opportunity, because
I think Cena was a good one because I think Cena did do double duty for a while. He did acting and still stayed relatively close to a full-time schedule. I think Cena was a good one. You know, you could say Shawn Michaels from a strictly like reference of athleticism, coming back after a 4-year layoff and having maybe some really good work. Kurt Angle, I don't know. Kurt Angle could at times, but I think Shawn Michaels is a good reference. I think Ric Flair, you have to throw Ric Flair in there because of just what he did, in terms of just the amount of matches. I think it has to be thrown out there. Antonio Inoki, yeah, it's a good one. I know I butchered the last name, but I know who we're talking about.
I would say if he were still alive, maybe Eddie Guerrero.
I'm gonna throw it out. I know it's old, and Rob Morosco will appreciate it. I know that people would say it's a crazy one to throw out there, but Bob Backlund did.
I was just thinking of him.
Yeah, back then they didn't do the promos, so I like.
But his ring ability though for 5, not the when he came back is like the raving lunatic in like the mid 90s, but like his run 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83.
The second longest, right? Right, Randy?
Second longest. He's
5.5 years. I mean, he's 5.5 years.
Like no one's gonna touch those numbers. So
in ring, you got to put in guys like, I think, unfortunately, you got to mention a guy like Benoit, right? I think Bret Hart you got to throw in there. For
I think Bret would be in the discussion of an Otani.
When I thought promo, I mean, when I said someone like Otani, somebody who could do everything in wrestling.
I think Bret was
able to do promo. That's why I mentioned.
What do you think about Ray, Randy?
Ray Mysterio?
Yeah.
Ray, he's shown times on the mic he can give it, but his mic skill, you look throughout his career.
Promo skills aren't great, but like as far as tenure and just being
as a tenure, he's up there. Like the fact that like he's still going at this day and age and 100%. Putting on some of the matches and even being on his card, like you being placed with like wrestling guys like Chad Gable, the New Day, like being with the LWO, like he definitely and still putting on some great performances. Definitely up there.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's an interesting discussion, and Joe Dell. Before I get to,
I bet Jericho. I think Jericho's got to be up there.
Jericho's up there, but I think his work has fallen since in the last 2 years. I have to say Jericho's work has fallen.
I mean, he's going to be up there, but I don't.
Turn age too.
Yeah, I you know what I think. Yeah, I kind of agree with Randy there a little bit because I think Jericho. Yeah, I mean, certainly like yes, he's kind of in that discussion, but I don't think he'll be judged as well the last couple years. I don't think he'll be judged, but he's in. He's definitely a chameleon. Jericho's. I hate to say it, I would compare Jericho more to, a Ricky Henderson in the fact that he played a long time. He was very successful. He compiled a lot of stats, like that. And like, he's certainly you're going to look back and he was a main eventer for a long period of time, like a Ricky Henderson. That's probably a better analogy. A lot of people want to talk about this. I'll come up here. Joe Dell would like to say comparing Rob Morosco to the Brooklyn Bros.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. But you know what's fun? Actually, I'm going to say something. No. Actually, I'm going to say, no. Believe it or not, now Rhino just came onto Sportswire, right? Now, Rhino, believe it or not, when he wrestled in WWE, when he properly came into WWE, he was in what would called an enhancement talent back in the mid to late 90s for a period of time. But when he came into WWE from ECW, the person that actually got him ready was the Brooklyn Brawler. He actually talks about this, not here on the air, but he talked about it with me off the air, and he talked about it on other shows he's done, was the Brooklyn Brawler actually was a guy that helped him get ready for his WWE debut properly. So the Brooklyn Brawler was a guy that actually helped out a lot of guys in the behind the scenes. So
the Brawler is someone you make jokes about, but he doesn't get appreciated some of the work he did behind the scenes. I think
he had a long career in WWE. I mean, he had a long career. I don't know if he'll make the Hall of Fame. They put a lot of suspectable names in there, but he had
jobbers, right? They used to call them.
Yeah, enhancement talents would be the proper name because there are wrestlers that are listening to this, so I would say enhancement talents. But he had a lot of truth. But he lasted for 4 decades. You think about his career, 30. How did a guy wrestle 30 years in WWE? I mean, he did 30 years.
Gotta give him credit.
Well,
he in the Hall of Fame?
There's one more guy.
No, he's not. No,
he should be.
There's one more guy I think we're forgetting. If you're going to go back to a guy who's absolutely made an impact wherever he went, is still making an impact to this day, Guy just had his retirement and came back, what, like 2 months later, Randy? You got to mention Steve Borden. You got to mention Sting.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sting
Yeah,
definitely,
that's
you know,
true.
Sting definitely, he's definitely a guy, no question. Sting definitely is in for what his
Yeah,
career was for sure.
I think his run in TNA doesn't get talked enough about how he changed his character, because WCW he was more of this.
He was Joker, Sting, Main Event Mafia,
and then you
run
go
with Kurt
from
Angle. Yep.
and then just how he changed his whole persona, being this talker kind of defender. Like he became like the Undertaker of TNA, where he was like kind of golden standard.
He had a longer run in TNA than WCW. People, you know, look at that. Go look back and how many years he was in TNA. He had 12 years.
Tony Khan says his best run was in AEW, but who knows?
We don't listen to Tony Khan.
Who else I missed here? Yep, I think we went through that. Yes, thank you, Zilla. We love Mr. Matsuda. We always love him. Who else we got here? Okay, here's Edwin. I've seen Bob Backlund live against Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I remember seeing Snuka against Morosco in the steel cage. That was another classic match, man.
There's a lot of great matches.
I remember that.
And if you hear we got to give Ed a big plug with Dooley, because I'm telling you, just wait till what Dooley does with Sportswire. I think Ed had a plan for us about a year ago, but I think now he sees the subscribers, he sees the views. He now, I think, is going to come around. So that's his page. Check it out. It's going to, I can't say a lot about it yet, but I think when you see it here soon, it's going to be revolutionary. So thank you, Ed, for that. Let me get to a couple more comments. There's a few new stars coming out of Japan I want to see in Major League Baseball soon. I hope that they might come to migrate and play. Well, you never know. It's a good point.
Sasaki this year, right?
Well, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
We'll find out next week, the 15th.
Oh, we are. And they came to my high school in 1980. Wow.
Nice.
That's a good time. Rob would have known. Great writer interview. Thank you very much for that. I'm getting a lot of messages about that. Brawler, very wise with his wrestling, much with Rob with baseball. So, all right. So he covered his
comparison by time.
That's what I said. Brooklyn Brawler had a good career. Rob's been on Sportswire for almost the entire time. Simply one of the all-time greats. His impact lives on, past retirement and current Japanese stars. That's another good analogy. Another good one here. A lot of great comments here tonight. Thank you. Yes, I'm plugging Ed and Dooley. Who else we got? It's coming. Yeah, I know it. Oh, I know it's coming. I know it's definitely coming here. And if you're here on Sportswire, you'd like to tune in, you can do that with us here. Give us a sub. Give these guys a follow on Instagram, X, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. I want to thank everybody that tuned in here for Rhino. I had 30 plus people on the live. A lot of people going back and watching it. Comments. There was already 20 plus likes on the video. So a lot of great stuff. Keep it coming. Share the video, and Facebook at 5,000 views for the announcement. So thank you very much for that. And we're hanging out here. So, yeah, I mean, we never know. You can get on Sportswire. Rob, is there any debts you want to report? You're the Grim Reaper. You want to report debts? We're talking wrestling, talking football. I mean, you have a debt to announce on Sportswire?
Yeah, I'm not going to bring it down.
Hold on.
Oh, do it. Who you got? You got a debt? You got a debt? Is it a newspaper that's dying, or you have that?
Listen, that's something close to you. Yeah, that debt.
Well, I gotta be honest. That one, I don't know if it's coming next week. I think it's going to come in a year or so. Maybe it's. I don't know.
No, it's not. Well, the Jersey papers are in a couple of weeks. They're gone.
So locally, for those that read a newspaper still in New Jersey, at New Jersey Advance Media has a bunch of different papers. The Newark Star Ledger. A few other papers, and they're actually no longer printing as the end of this month. They're actually shutting their production site in Montville, New Jersey, and the newspaper business is slowly dying. It's a dying breed. So,
and you know what? I miss reading the paper. I miss opening up and reading the box scores. You guys don't appreciate that. Rob would. Right?
Well, I'm a newspaper carrier, actually. I've actually seen a newspaper. I'm a newspaper carrier, Chris. You're forgetting I deliver. So all I have seen is a newspaper, pretty much.
That may be from Baltimore, but I know how to read.
Every morning, I grab the newspaper, and that would be my morning routine going to work. And then when I got to work, checking out the box scores from the night before, and
it was fun. I remember.
Me and my younger brother, we got the paper over their house every morning before we go to school. We would check to see the NHL scores, who scored, who got the assist, all that kind of stuff. Because that was the kind of the quickest way to check all the stats.
Yes, I can tell you what I used to do was I still have it actually. I have a notebook. What I would take is I would like write who was leading in certain categories in sports, and I would memorize it, and I would write it. I would just, just sit there and with the newspaper, and I loved reading the newspaper. It's a college even. I would take, multiple papers here, the Daily News, the Post, the Staten Island Advance, obviously, and Newsday even, but really the newspapers are like they're just toilet paper now, literally. No, well, even the Post locally, we have the New York Post and the Daily News. Literally, you could read them in like 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. I could. The last time I read
anymore.
No, they're not. They're like one. I mean, the Post and the News like kind of are thick once in a while. The Times is a little bit more thicker, like on a Saturday, not a Sunday. But like the newspapers, like not what they used to be, But a couple people actually want to talk about that. There you go. Joey Bostrom, I still read the paper, would pour over the box scores. Well, you're not getting the box scores in the Staten Island Advance because they don't really have box scores in the Advance. But yeah, the News and the Post, you definitely get them still. I mean, there's something about, like I remember my father sitting there and reading the newspaper. We'd sit there and he liked reading the paper. I liked reading the paper. And Mr. Matsuda actually remembers reading the paper. I remember the little comic strips in the back of the paper as a kid. I used to steal that from my mother and do the puzzles and read the comic strips, notably Garfield. Yeah, I mean, and he's a little bit of a drawer. I mean, that was a fun thing. Yeah, the comics were. I kind of did the puzzles when I was in college. I would go on the train it took me like 90 minutes sometimes to get to college, and I would actually try to do a puzzle. I wasn't like the biggest puzzle guy, but yeah, the puzzles were fun. I do remember the puzzles. Puzzles were cool. Joe Dell would like to say, I remember being a kid grabbing Granny's paper and pulling out the cartoons and the sports. I thought he was going to say something about Rob, but this time it's talking about Granny. It's talking about Granny and pulling out the cartoon and sports section.
Rob probably remember them taking like the big camera with the flash, taking the pictures.
I'll tell you what Rob probably remembers. I'll tell you what Rob, we're having fun here. I'll tell you what Rob remembers. He probably remembers when they delivered like a midday edition for the newspaper. He probably remembers that, when they had, you would sometimes get two. Yeah, you would get two papers from the same company in a day. You would get like your morning edition, and you would get an afternoon edition. Like certain places would give you that. Now it's like you get the paper, that's it. They don't even like.
You're lucky you get the paper
now. And how many the advance is like how many pages is
dude? It's like 10 pages, 12
pages.
Wow.
It's like like 10, 12, about 10, 12. Wow. You're basically reading like nothing. Literally, you flip it and that's it. Sunday's a little better. It's like, but it's not like it used to be. Sunday would take me like 15 minutes. Sundays used to take me I used to get up and read the paper, take a nap in the afternoon, wake up and like after a baseball game and read the paper for like an hour. Now, if I read the same paper, 10 minutes, 15.
Yeah, I think you got maybe till the end of the year, but
that's what I think. I don't know. Could be shorter, could be sooner.
I'm far removed from that place, so I talk to the one manager that's left.
Well, I gotta be honest. I'm mad. I was mad at the one manager yesterday because little known thing. There's a guy that owns a local supermarket here, and
I know the story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say his name. I'm going to say his name. Bill Fanny, you're a jackass, really, because you were like, no, the guy that owns Met Food. I hope he hears this. This guy was like, didn't get his insert. The dude, you own the paper, dude. Yeah. Like, you own the insert. It's like stupid stuff, But
when I was a manager, I dealt with that guy a couple times. But...
Yeah, he lives near us, Rob. He lives in our neighborhood. He's one of these type of. Why, like our guest yesterday, Nikki Chooch, but we'll move on, leave that at that. Well, no, he's not a Nikki Chooch like he's an organized crime. He's just one of them. Yeah, papers are dying out. Rob actually remembers reading the very first Peanuts cartoon in the newspaper. Wasn't Snoopy in the papers too, or am I remembering wrong? No, I think Snoopy was in them. I think he would have been in.
There was a few comments. Yeah,
Snoopy is celebrating his 75th anniversary this year too. So
wow.
Just to show you.
So that
he's been old.
Rob, remember the first Snoopy cartoon or?
Snoopy's old. Yeah. Really? Snoopy's 75? Really?
Rob remembers when Snoopy was just called Dog.
When he was a puppy.
Snoopy 75. Wow. Okay, Tom. Wow, 75. Snoopy 75. So that means like
True.
Snoopy's really not Snoopy anymore. It's like droopy almost. Like 75 is like
Poor Snoopy.
yeah, 75. I mean, what does that make Mickey and Donald Duck and all of them then? What does that make?
Oh, now Steamboat Millie, Millie,
100 years.
Yeah.
is able to be it's not copyrighted
public domain
anymore, right?
now. It's public domain.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Crazy.
God! And here's what Joe wants to say: Ba, Finn, Napola, Bill. Oh, Bill. Yeah, Bill Fanny. Yeah, Bill Fanny's. This guy. This guy who gets a newspaper delivered and he doesn't get an insert in there, and it's like a national tragedy. It's
Well, you know what it is. You know what it is. The guy. It's because he's an advertiser.
Yeah, and he
wants to
pays
see
X
ads
amount
in
of
the
dollars,
paper.
and he didn't get the paper. Yeah, I get. Not the insert. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know.
That's why he wants to. He's paying for. That's how.
But he's
the
actually
paper
not paying. But he's actually not paying for the paper. Actually, he's getting a free pay. It's the whole thing. I don't want to spend an hour on it because it's like the whole thing is. It's the most goofy situation. The guy gets a free paper, and he's getting it free. Doesn't read the paper, but didn't get an insert. And then it's like a national. You would think it's like Jimmy Carter dying. It's like the same thing. It's like no, it's not. But Snoopy's age is how I feel. We're talking. Well, don't say that, Mr. Metsu. You still got one more match technically. With the Backyard Wrestling Nexus is breaking the chain show, technically on that, but we're having fun here. We'll talk for a little while longer. But anything else you guys want to talk about here in the remaining minutes of the show? Anything else you guys want to get off your chest? Anything
talk a little bit about the NHL, especially the race in the East right now. You blink and the standings literally change. Like Boston now, they're in a wild card at 45 points.
Devils are struggling a little bit. 5 straight losses.
5 straight losses, but they're still okay because they have some breathing room. Washington hasn't been playing good, but you look at the wild card race. I think Boston 45, Columbus, Pittsburgh 44.
Everybody's in it. The Islanders won 2 in a row, and they're 4 points out again.
30, I think 40. Buffalo 7 points, but they'll need to have a longer run. The Rangers are kind of in it, but
Rangers win again, so they're at 40. Islanders are at 39.
I can't see the Rangers missing the playoffs. They're gonna get in. They're gonna sneak in.
Anybody's in it though. Everybody's in it.
They're trying to make a trade. They're talking to Vancouver about getting JT Miller and for the advantage of
bring him back. Yep.
1-on-1, and that didn't happen. Very interesting to see what's gonna happen come deadline, especially if all these teams are in it. Like Ottawa's still in it. Montreal found a way to come from the dead.
Montreal's playing really well right now. I mean, Montreal's 9 of 11.
I think they've won.
Yeah, I mean, I got the standings here. You look at it. I mean, everybody's in it practically. In the NHL, in the Eastern Conference. I mean, just looking at it here right now. I mean, the Islanders Flyers are in last place, but are 5 points out of a playoff spot. Pittsburgh, Randy, you did a podcast a month ago and talked about Pittsburgh, and they're basically in a playoff spot. Columbus has been a mild surprise. I mean, you look at all these teams here. Detroit's red hot.
Buffalo's only 7 points out of a wild card.
But they'll need to do a lot of work. Boston, I think they're in danger of missing. I think if one team's going to fall out, it's going to be the Bruins.
Yeah, but you know what? You just never know because everybody. Look at the Islanders. Islanders win a couple in a row. They're back in it. Look at Detroit. Detroit changed coaches. They got 6 in a row. So almost nobody's out of it really in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's you got a few teams and then there's everybody else. But that's what the league wanted. They wanted parity.
Every team, every league wants that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
look at the West though, it's a different story. I think like maybe 1 or 2 teams are like
Chicago's out of it. You
the Sharks, the Predators. I think the Kraken's pretty much out of it at this point.
You got I mean, Anaheim's probably out
They're
of it.
They're pretty much out as well. Yeah,
I mean, but that's what NHL sports wants. They want parity. They want mediocrity. They reward mediocrity. I mean, that's just almost don't even watch these games. But I mean, there's a handful of teams, and then there's everybody else. I mean, you see the Central, you got 4 strong teams, and then you got the 3 in the Pacific, and then everybody else is kind of fighting it out. But what did Joe want to say here? Mackey had circles for eyes, bounced everywhere. He walked with his elbows out when Rob was a kid. What are we talking about here? Who's Mackey?
He He's walking like this.
Who's
I
Mackie?
think he's talking about a cartoon, but I have no idea.
Mackie had, I'll repeat it again. Mackie had circles for eyes, bounced
cartoon,
everywhere. Okay. And who would have got that reference?
Rob.
No,
I don't even think Rob knows the
I
reference.
know.
Oh, Rob, that
Rob's
movie?
the only one that's got a shot.
Holy
at him.
shit.
I don't even think Rob knew the reference. I'm just like, I don't even know like what this. Oh, Mickey. Mickey had circles for eyes.
Oh,
Okay.
Mickey.
Okay.
I'm like Mackie, like who's Mackie? I don't know anybody named Mackie. I mean, the
Not
whole
Funaki.
I thought he was talking about Mackie Sasser.
Yeah, Rob knows Mackie.
Well, Mackie Sasser, who actually I'm friends with on Facebook, I think a couple of us are, was the guy that famously, when he was a catcher, for those that know in baseball,
Yes.
he couldn't throw.
He couldn't throw back to the pitcher.
Kind of
I was
sad.
at one game. Listen, I was at one game. It was really ridiculous. He did that so much. It took like 20 minutes out of the game. 20 minutes he was doing before.
Oh, he'd be a killer now with the pitch clock, right?
Oh, forget it.
Oh,
Kind of
my.
feel- you know what? When you hear something like that, like to be honest, like just leaves anything out, you almost feel sorry for the person. Like, they
I
can't-
felt horrible for him.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like,
Oh,
you can't throw back
It's
to
mental.
the
It's not
mound.
physical. It's all mental.
no,
you know?
it's mental.
You feel bad for them. Like you feel bad
Yeah.
because that's just a simple task. It'd be like for the wrestling guys, you come out and you're supposed to go through the ropes and you can't go through the ropes.
You mean,
Then
you mean
stay on the
Titus?
ring. If you can't go through the ropes, you
Titus.
shouldn't. You shouldn't
Titus
be doing
O'Neil
Yeah,
went under the ring.
Well, that's why Titus isn't. He's an ambassador. I mean, he's an ambassador.
Yeah,
But that's
he's
the
not.
same thing.
But it was still pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
There's a lot of things, but that's like you feel bad. But it's like the same thing. If you were a wrestler, you couldn't, for whatever reason, go through the ring ropes. You just, I don't know. I mean, just you feel bad. But he's not talking about Mackie. He's talking about Mickey. But well, Mickey, Mackie. But maybe Mickey will have circles for eyes. But I guess Rob saw that. Speaking of catching, tell him the Pops Yankee story. What's the Yankee story?
All right, Joe's father had a tryout for the Yankees. His father was a really good ball player,
Right.
but he was so nervous about the tryout that he didn't sleep all night because he was nervous about it. And then he fell asleep and he missed the tryout.
Oh,
Yeah, and his father was a good ball player, so.
So what
That's
happened?
right,
He
that's what
stopped
it
playing
said.
ball. So what happened?
Yeah, it
Because your
devastated
father
him.
played. Rob, your father played professionally. Your father.
Yeah, my father
was
played
a minor leaguer.
in the minor leagues for the Washington Senators. Yeah, but
He was a
slow.
minor league baseball player.
My father's problem was he was slow. If he got what should have been a double, he would get a base hit. So that's how slow my father was. But
today he would have fitted in fine because guys today don't even run the bases. So actually today he would have been fine. 60, 70 years ago, yeah, you would have been forget about it. You got cut. But now today, that's all guys do is they turn doubles into singles.
Yeah,
They
but
turn home runs
father,
into doubles practically.
Joe's father that devastated him, and that was it.
Very devastating. Yeah, Pops got drafted during Vietnam. That don't help either. Yeah, fighting in a war like Vietnam definitely doesn't help. But it's it's an interesting thing. But yeah, Pops, that people, you got to get up, you got to wake up and do these things. Yeah, I mean you should. But anything else anybody wants to talk about here before we get to closing thoughts? Anybody else wants to share anything else on their mind?
I'm going to go back to wrestling, Tom. I think not enough talk about the performance NXT had this week on CW. Some of the matches, Julia and Roxanne Perez put on a classic. Oba Femi, like this guy, you talk about a stud. Like this is Bobby Lashley and some of these other top Omos. Like Oba Femi is like on another level. How dominant, how good this guy promo. His walk just demands a present. So NXT, I think, is on fire right now. I know people are happy with the 900, not big rating, but that I think has to do with The Rock. But overall, NXT, like Ethan Page is doing good with his story with Javon Evans. It's just everything right now is just.
There was a crossover because of the Netflix halo that it crossed over into NXT. It's a good point. AEW's viewership went up. I mean, not to spend much time on that.
I'm going to leave this quick with AEW because I can go for 2 hours about this. I don't. They want to promote.
Well, next week I'm sure we'll talk about it when we have a regular time show.
Jeff Jarrett, hurrah! But they pair him with MJF, someone who they need to desperately get on TV. Kenny Omega's big return. I think they could have done a little bit better. I don't know what they're kind of doing with getting him. I understand why they have him with Don Callis coming out again, but it's done that story. And then are we going to see another Ospreay and Omega match? Because I feel like they're trying to get fans in regardless. But yeah, they're not clicking. And then again, I'm going to say this as I said last week, Mariah May, one of your best talents, you give her 2 minutes of airtime on your biggest show. And then you're going to put her on Collision where no one's watching. It's just like, what are you doing?
But what are they doing? That's a great question. What are they doing? And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that next week. Anything else anybody wants to share before I let everybody have closing thoughts? Anything else anybody wants to get off their chest? Anything? No? Okay. TBK, you got the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. I wish I knew more about hockey. My hockey knowledge begins and ends with Gretzky and Ovechkin. So I don't know anything about hockey, but go Caps. Anyway, yeah, real quick. There is speculation about the Hardys finally wrapping it up this year, calling it a career, getting ready to head back to WWE because they have expressed interest in working with the Motor City Machine Guns, which I think will be a phenomenal match for everybody involved. Really do want to see them go out on a high note, given everything that Jeff has been through, and God bless Matt, because Matt has been keeping the Hardy name afloat for years. That guy deserves all his flowers and then some. And then the other story coming out of AEW is apparently Malachi Black is finishing up and could potentially be on his way. Don't know. There was somebody who said that we could potentially get a Royal Rumble entrant. I don't see that happening. I think it's too soon. But bring him back. Let him have what he should have had his first go around. Malachi has always been one of my favorites, and I would love to see him thrive where he belongs. But yeah, that's it for me.
And Rob, I got one more for you. Actually, happy birthday yesterday to Charlie DBA. So I don't know if you still speak to Charlie, but the one of the last. Yeah, well, one of the few remaining souls left in the Staten Island advance.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to him. I actually interviewed him a long time ago. Yeah, Charlie was a nice guy. I interviewed him. I actually interviewed him. He really does a lot for the Staten Island advance. Yeah, he mostly does high school sports, high school basketball, a wealth of information on Staten Island when it comes to high school basketball, football, baseball. Good guy, local guy.
Yeah, he's a good
Wish him a happy birthday. I always liked Charlie. Charlie was an interesting interview.
Me too.
He was fun. But thank you. Happy birthday, Charlie. And we'll definitely, I'm sure, pick it up tomorrow and, today, depending on where you are. But thank you, everybody, for that. I'm going to give some closing thoughts. I'll go with you first, TBK, and I'll work my way around the room.
Great show as always. I'm glad I could be here with you guys. Like I said, I was going to say at the beginning of the show.
I hope you feel better. I hope you feel
Thank
better.
You. I'll say it now. These guys already heard it. If you're out there listening, please wash your hands, cover your freaking mouths. Whatever is going around right now is super brutal. So please take care of yourselves. Tom, thank you as always for having me. Hey, look, playoff football, man, it starts tomorrow. Like I said, I want to be as optimistic as Chris and Rob, so let's go Ravens. And I think, like I said, this year just has a whole different feel to it. It's going to be super competitive on down the stretch, and as much as we, think we know what's going to happen, I think we have no idea. So I'm going to be on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see what happens. Looking forward to the next Netflix Raw on Netflix. And thanks for the time, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. That was a fun show. We got a kind of mixed mash of every different thing, and I think people enjoyed it. We had a lot of people in the chat. People were talking, hanging out. And if you want to follow TBK, he's on Instagram. Check him out there. I'm going to go with you, Randy, next. Want to pass the baton to you. It was a lot of fun. Talked about different things. Get everybody in there. And want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? Take it away.
Thanks, Tom. As always, a pleasure. TBK, hope you're feeling better. Chris, Always a pleasure getting Rob. Thanks for being a great sport, poking fun of you. You're always a pleasure. And Tom, first off, just congratulating you in that big interview with Rhino.
Oh yeah, good job.
Your hard work, all of it. We appreciate everything you do for us, and glad some payoff there. Just to wrap up a couple of things, the NHL note: Ovechkin, we're 23 goals away from him passing Wayne Gretzky record. The Caps have been playing some awful hockey lately, but we'll see if they can turn out. And then just on a note on WWE, I think, as I mentioned, there's going to be a letdown. The performance, from what we saw on Raw this week, it was high end, but there's going to be
I think that's a good point.
And you got to remember, you have Rumble right around the corner, so they're going to save it.
I said at the beginning of the show, listen, when it comes to Netflix, you're not going to have every show hit. It doesn't work out that way.
It's the ebbs and flows of W. Like today's SmackDown, like it wasn't. I think people are thinking, "Oh, it was boring." But I'm like, of course you're going to think it's boring after watching what we saw on Raw. But I thought overall SmackDown was a decent SmackDown. Like it wasn't anything special, but I think it was decent enough to pay attention to. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, Saturday Night Main Event. You got 2 weeks. You're about 2 weeks away. No matches. Start promoting that, and then listen, John Cena's in the Rumble, Roman Reigns in the Rumble. My guess is Seth Rollins, CM Punk's going to be in the Rumble. I hope and I believe Joe Henry will be in the Rumble. We'll see some other surprises there, but it's hard to pick a Rumble favorite this year. If I had to pick, I think it's going to be maybe Cena or Roman, but it's still very hard to determine. But we'll see what happens as we still have a few weeks away to determine.
That's a lot of great points there. I definitely echo a lot of those sentiments. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now. We're getting closer to the Rumble and obviously Saturday night's main event. And we'll see with SmackDown 3 hours now for a little while. And NXT's heating up. So hot time in wrestling. I'm going to go, Chris, I'm going to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. I have the New York MLB talk. I'm going to play it tomorrow. I'm actually going to be around all day tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to playing it, listening to the show. I got a bunch of shows on Sportswire I have to catch up on. We started slowly releasing them. Neil Villapiano's show we played before this afternoon. I played Chris Belcher's show, the Pipe was Squared Circled Radio, formerly the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, Sit Down Marks, Liftoff Jets, a bunch of other great shows. And let me pass the baton to you, good sir, and floor is yours.
Tom, thank you very much. Great show as always, guys. Tom, great job on the interview with Rhino. TBK, good to see you feeling better, brother.
Thanks,
good luck tomorrow with the game. Just like TBK said, man, I'm excited about the playoffs, even though the Jets aren't in it. Of course I'm an Eagle fan.
I could have spent time on the Jets tonight, but I didn't want to, turn into a Grim Reaper episode.
I'd like to be stressed out with both my teams in, and worrying about if they're going to win or lose. I like that feeling as much as it's stressful. I do love that feeling. So I don't think it's going to happen next year either for the Jets. So I'm not expecting it. But I'm waiting for a new head coach and a new GM. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, just check me out, with Rob, with NYMLB Talk, and with my buddy Sharman doing Lift
Did you guys do a show this week?
Yes. I didn't send it to you.
I don't think I got it. Send it to me tomorrow. I don't need it now. So send it to me tomorrow.
I'll send it.
I won't play it till Sunday because I'll be around. So I'd like to hear that. But it's great shows. They're always great. Yeah, well, still send it to me and I'll play it. But I really look forward to hearing the shows. And the New York MLB Talk is a staple on here. The Pinstripe Chronicles, shout out to them. They hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. Congratulations. And those guys are doing a great job. They get like 200-300 people sometimes on their YouTube live. These guys. You want to talk about grinders? People talk about me grinding. These guys, I remember when I found them 4 years ago, they had like 10 views on a YouTube stream and they get like 1,000. These guys really, they worked it. These guys, Bobby Tats, Donald Stewart, and Rob Barros, and Mother Lynn, right? You've done some stuff with Mother Lynn, and Chris, and the other Chris, not this Chris, but they've done a great job. So congratulations to them on that. I'm going to honor them actually in a few weeks, actually. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be on their show, but great stuff, Chris. Thank you for that. Rob, I'm going to give you the floor. I was going to still wait for a Grim Reaper moment, but maybe I'm out of luck. But until then, it was a fun show. Had a lot of people hanging out. We'll do it again next week, and the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, great show, guys. Had a lot of fun tonight. Good laughs. Good to see all you guys. Yeah, the Grim Reaper moment is the Staten Island Advance. We're just waiting. It's a slow death. Okay, it's a slow
you know
death.
what? I gotta be honest on the Advance. I thought that paper would have died actually during Superstorm Sandy. No joke. They were like the paper was like It's been the fact they've lasted this long is actually I don't know how. I don't know how.
Well, it's because they're their first paper, so they're going to try to keep it out there as long.
Hang on.
As
you know what? I still think they may hang on past this year. I just think they will.
Might. They might, as long but your customers are dying, and
they're like
you're not replacing them.
That was a joke. Well, there's a joke. I would say is a political joke, but I'm not going to say it on the air. But maybe I'll say it off the air. But yeah, there's no question that's it's a
but
moot
that
point.
That's it. And yeah, we taped the latest NYMLB talk yesterday, so
yes, I got it. I just didn't play it. I'll be playing it tomorrow. I'm home all day tomorrow.
It's another good show. Me and Chris have a lot of fun talking baseball, and people are gonna enjoy this episode. And one last thing, the Mets are retiring David Wright's number, and he's going to be inducted to the Mets Hall of Fame July 19th.
Does that mean Choo Coleman's getting inducted also with the number?
Yeah, that's right. Good. That's a good one. So I just wanted to mention that. But other than that, great show and great interview with Rhino.
Thank you. You know what? My brother Brian actually watched it. Who doesn't really watch my show.
I saw your mom. Wasn't your mother watching it too?
She was in the chat. She watched it. There was a lot of people that I hadn't seen. My Anthony Finkel watched it, who doesn't watch our shows very often. He watched it. There were people that like my Facebook post got 171 likes. People in politics that I know like wow, you are somebody. So it was a lot of people watched it. I think people will watch it. I had messages from people. So it was great. You had 31 people on the live, and it was fun. It was a great moment, and we'll do more of them. And it was a lot of fun here tonight, and I'm sure we'll do more of that. We'll hear again throughout the weekend a couple different times. And thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Joe Dell. Thank you to Ed. I think Ed's going to do a lot of big things for Sportswire, but Ed, we'll talk about that a different time off the air. But we'll see what happens. I'm joined here tonight by Randy Dillon, host of the Hockey Fan Chat, Rob Maraska, co-host of New York MLB Talk, TBK. I got Chris Bazaya, also Liftoff Jets, New York MLB Talk, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all wrestling matters here. And before I go, I do want to say my thoughts and prayers to a man, Kenneth Taylor. I attended a wake earlier this week in Staten Island, and unfortunately a first responder sanitation worker dropped dead on New Year's Day. Like to give my thoughts and prayers to his family and those impacted by that. A man that certainly was there right after September 11th, sanitation worker, and sifted through all that rumble and degree to obviously try to find somebody's information and stuff, and gave his life to the city of New York. Passes away far too soon at the age of 64. But I like to give my thoughts and prayers to him and everybody impacted by that horrible, passed away right on New Year's. But definitely I attended it, and I got a chance to say a few things there, and I hope that people will keep that in our thoughts. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I want to thank everybody for all of your support, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all sports matters and all wrestling matters. And I'll see everybody here later today, and thank you for your support. Enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.